think that it would be time to start to consider college, right? I think it would be time to start to consider further education. It is affecting us disproportionately, right? And this is very interesting because it kind of ties into that notion of like, don't give white people a reason to pull you over, right? So it's very evident at this point in life that this is a system issue, right? This is not a race issue in regards to proximity, even though we know that whites are typically more favored on the job. They're more considered for positions, where there's leadership, right? Just to kind of further permeate and sustain white supremacy and just the entire hierarchy. So we know that's very evident. Like we cannot really refrain from that. But I really do think it's time for Black people to start looking into either higher education, or we have to kind of take a look and see, is entrepreneurship something that we should be doing? There was a really good video that I liked. It was called On Your Way to Six Figures. It was by Tony Gaskins. And he pretty much gave a very, very rudimentary breakdown of how to build a business. And he is an entrepreneur. I believe he has My Mentor Academy, where he trains life coaches and certifies them to be life coaches. He talks about relationships. He's a Christian, married man. Thus far, I would say his content's pretty good. I think it's very productive, and he has a YouTube channel, right? I think he's well over 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. And so it's very clear that, I kind of went down the track record to actually show you guys that me referencing him was productive and that it actually worked, right? Like, you talk about people and they tell you, how to make six figures, but they're not making six figures. That's not what I'm saying. And I thought that the video was very insightful because I can't stress enough, when you go into corporate spaces and you try to do things certain ways, they really do talk you out of your business ideas. I'll never forget, I was talking to a Black entrepreneur and I was telling her about the ideas that I had, the things that I wanted to do. And she told me, what I needed to do. And I told her, oh, really? It's that simple, right? I said, I spoke to someone who told me I needed X, Y, and Z and several other requirements. And she said, no. All you need is to know, where's the business going to move in 3 months? Where are we going to do, what are we going to do in 6 months, right? She gave a very general breakdown of a business plan. I can't stress enough how many times I've sat with white corporate executives and let me not say executives, because at this point that's just a bit much, but white conservatives at this point who, have these college backgrounds and they have these MBAs and they have all these things and they give you so much book knowledge to where it's low-key discouraging. I think that you get to a point where you're so weighed down by everything that needs to be done and everything, you know what I mean? It's just all this rhetoric and you never really get started. And I started thinking about that for myself and just how literally, you guys, it's one of those things where I just think, honestly, you kind of just got to do it. And so check out that video. That video was really good. But I really do think it's time for us to start looking into our finances. I know a lot of people have kind of taken this passive aggressive route. And I don't want to say that leaning on Christ is passive aggressive, because honestly, I have my days where I'm like, Jesus, I need you to take the wheel. And he do it every time. But I want us to be a little bit more aggressive in just trying. We have to realize that we cannot control outcomes. Regardless, I was reading the 1619. I'll never forget. I opened this book a very long time ago, you guys, probably last year, 2021. I bought this book in 2021. And I opened the first pages. I would never forget. I was working at the front desk and I was like, wow, she said, my father worked hard his whole life and he never was able to attain the American dream, right? And the American dream is, if you work hard, there's equal opportunity for everybody. And I think it's a very, very saddening, disheartening lie, because it's not true. It's not true. And so what you have now is you have white people who've kind of twisted the narrative, right? And they say, oh, well, let's not work hard, let's work smart, right? And to them, that's more so let's gear up AI, right? Let's gear up all of these first of all, we have to realize, just from a very historical context, white people have pretty much destroyed the world, right? It's industrialization, it's the new advancements, it's technology, it's all the things that keep us plugged in, wired in, entertained, right? All these little pleasures within the world, it destroyed the world, right? And so now when we look outside of that and we start to look at what's like what what's really here, and you start to listen to what they're saying, and it's really just further destruction. You know what I mean? I think about just like solar, like from a solar level and energy, right? I think about precipitation just from the ocean, right? Like 13 wells have showed up, I think, in the last 12 months in New Jersey and in between New York and New Jersey. And it's not really a matter of like climate change per se, even though that's a very evident, this is a huge issue, right? But my point is, white people always want to be the cause and the cure, right? So they're saying, no, don't work hard. You need to work harder, right? Everyone bought into the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Everyone's buying into Grant Cardone. And I think that white people are starting to extort their privileges. And I think that Black people need to start to consider finances and what, setting ourselves up for the future. Like, what are we going, where are we going to be, right? Because right now is not the time for luxury lifestyles. Like right now is not the time to be giving all of your money to these huge corporations. And I'm not saying you can't live a nice life. I think that this is probably the disconnect. A lot of people get very frustrated and they get discouraged when I say things like this, like you're not supposed to live your life or you're supposed to live below your means. I think that there was a brief moment where I was really, really struggling with depression because I felt like I had been raised in such a way that I was encouraged to, I was really encouraged in my abilities, my abilities to create something amazing for myself, and there was just a brief moment where I started to see the desire for grandiosity slip away when reality kind of settled in. And I think a lot of people listening to this podcast, and you guys are going to follow up with this episode on the Patreon, is you just kind of start to realize as you get a little bit older and you're living in America, you start to see the realities of things. And I think that was one thing that I resented. I was in that 20, right? Because I kind of want to talk about the window of opportunity, or at least this illusion of a window of opportunity, right? Because I believe when you're younger, that sense of naivete can really work to your benefit, depending on the circumstances and the hands in which you've been dealt. But in that moment, I was always like being grounded in reality by my externals and the people that were in my life. And when I look back on it, I think it was really just a sense of protection, perhaps, And I think it was a sense of protection because the shattering of dreams. Okay, guys, so if you've enjoyed the episode up until this point, please be sure to check out the link in the bio of this podcast episode to subscribe to my Patreon. Welcome, community members. I am so looking forward to seeing you guys, and you guys see my face and we just interact, and it being such a great thing. So subscribe to the Patreon. The link is in the bio. Peace.